Hello, this is South Center's Chat. My name is Tom Worley. I'm the director at the Extension Center at Piketon, Ohio, a part of the College of Food, Ag, and Environmental Sciences. It's my pleasure to have the interim director of OSU Extension with me today, Jackie Kirby Wilkins. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. It's great to be with you this morning, doing this a little bit over a distance as many things are happening at this point in time. And I think that's our topic today, is to share a little bit about extension for Ohio State University in general, but also how extension is adapting to the situation we find ourselves in with COVID-19 restrictions on our activity and social distancing and all that we're aware of that comes with that. So I know extension is always very, very active and really is a kind of a high touch and a long reach, but there have been some changes, but the mission and vision still remain the same. So you might want to share just what we're all about right at the very beginning.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. And so Ohio State University Extension is one of the primary outreach and engagement arms of the university for Ohio State. And we are situated in all 88 counties across the state. And within each county, we have a variety of educators and professionals who really focus on our vision, which is helping Ohioans have the knowledge and resources they need to actively engage in creating conditions in which they're going to thrive. And so we really focus on building opportunities for the research to be taken from the university in a way that makes sense for local clientele in the spaces that they live and work, and to be able to help them think about being involved in creating opportunities to explore some of that science-based knowledge that we have from the university with the goal of improving our social, economic, and environmental conditions. And we do that in a wide variety of ways, but primarily working with communities, families, and individuals, and bringing that knowledge and resources in four primary areas. 4-H positive youth development is probably one that a lot of people are very familiar with. Then we also have our agricultural and natural resources professionals, our family and consumer science professionals who really work on that idea of pre-birth to end of life situations and decision making across the lifespan. And then our community vitality, community development focus. And so that obviously is something that we've focused on now for 100 years within Extension, and at the university, we're celebrating our sesquicentennial of 150 years. So in a nutshell, that's kind of our vision and our mission, and we'll talk a little bit today about how we're taking that out during the COVID crisis.
Right. Well, I would just venture in here just a little bit that our part of OSU Extension down at Piketon is very much within this overall vision and mission. We become just a little bit more specific and talk about decision making, and knowledge and resources are needed for good decision making. And in the areas where we focus in aquaculture and specialty crops, soil and water, and business development. Certainly, we have that vision that we're providing resources and knowledge, and even in this environment, we're finding new things, that we're sharing and that still fit within this overall mission of trying to help people improve and the opportunities and take advantage of those that they have available to them. So at this point, maybe as you've already laid out, we work within four broad program areas of certain activities that have transitioned and really been strengthened in this era that we're in right now. Maybe you want to talk about 4-H and youth development.
Well, and if I could maybe just step back for a quick second and tell you a little bit about what's been going on with Extension, and obviously all of our different research stations and professionals within Ohio State over the last few weeks. And so one of the things that we've done is we moved to teleworking until further notice, and that really started about 4 weeks ago. I can't believe it's already been nearly a month. But we moved about 800 employees back into telework environments. And for that reason, we were really forced to engage in a lot of technology and virtual trainings that a lot of folks some really embraced as early adopters, and others were maybe a little less interested in moving that technology forward. But now it's a platform that is really a requirement with all of the social distancing. It's also important to know that all of our programs, activities, and events have been scheduled between now and July 6th have to be held virtually, or they need to be postponed or canceled. And so that included some of our primary and significant events through 4-H, which has been, a lot of people interested in how that's going to look. And then all of our in-person 4-H camps have been canceled through August 31st. And all of this is really related to that primary concern for the health and safety of the people that we serve, both the faculty and staff, our volunteers, our stakeholders, and certainly our community members, especially families and youth that we work with. And just to mention that the county fair's decision has not been made yet, but we're preparing to be able to succeed through that. So maybe that's a good place to jump in with what Ohio 4-H is doing. Again, with us announcing that our clubs can't meet face-to-face, for instance, and our advisors have that restriction as well. Getting together in large groups and even small groups physically has been something that we're not doing at the state level. And so we've moved a lot of things online. We have our 4-H club advisor resources have all been moved online. We're doing a lot of meeting virtually with our clubs, especially some of our special interest groups. And so there's things like the 4-H horse bull contest that's gone virtual. We are having scavenger hunts and ways to keep the youth engaged over the summer. We're doing a lot of STEM activities to help them think about science, technology, engineering, and math, and some workforce development ideas or career projected ideas that they might have over time. And then we're doing a lot of stay-at-home projects because we know both with the homeschooling that's going on with parents who have to work from home now and not having childcare in place, we're also providing a lot of opportunities to engage our youth in positive youth development activities this summer. And then we also have a variety of 4-H clubs that are starting to do some service learning. So we have some that are working toward that 1 million mask engagement to sew and provide for some of our healthcare workers. And then we've also just recently been highlighted by the governor's office for some videos that we've created through our 4-H clubs to really thank the healthcare workers and those that are the first responders. In addition to that, we have a lot of work going into figuring out how do we prepare for either a virtual interaction, I guess, with the fairs, or if they actually are going to continue to do some of the fairs across time, how do we pivot and be able to make sure that we haven't lost any of the steps needed to keep our youth engaged in that?
Right, right. Well, I know this has been a big area in terms of decision making over the last few weeks, as you suggest. So much of the activity in 4-H youth development intensifies at this time of year as we approach the warmer months and meetings take place and preparations are made with many, many projects that are going to end up at the fair. And that certainly puts some uncertainty about it. But I have just one anecdote I'll throw in that said, well, we went ahead and got the 4-H pig because whether we take them to the fair or not, it's going to be good for the kids to have that project to take care of, that they enjoy doing it and keeps them occupied while they're at home. So yeah. I can see the value in that, and certainly a big part of it at any rate. It's just the question comes up, what will it be like in July, and will there be a fair or not, where they're concerned.
Tom, you hit it right on the nail on the head there. These are projects that culminate in the fair, but they're things that get done the entire year by way of the 4-H clubs. And we have a lot of intergenerational programming and families that have been involved. And so a lot of this really strikes a chord at the level of being rites of passage oftentimes in families and traditions that they look forward to. So there's been a lot of disappointment, clearly. But again, going back to that idea of safety being priority one, we're trying to figure out a way to make all those things that go into these projects, helping people understand that there's so much more that goes into that other than that final product. And so Absolutely. It's a really important time to help our youth, understand some of these challenges in life. And while this is a lesson we hope they hadn't had to learn, it certainly is providing us a lot of opportunity for some of these types of conversations and initiatives.
Right. And of course, another great big highlight of the 4-H year are the camps. And I think whether you mentioned that specifically at this point, but I'm sure that the early camps are not possible. I don't know if they're canceled all in general or just how that's taking place.
Yeah, so we've actually, in lockstep with the university and following the advice of a lot of what's going on by way of the governor's office, have decided to, because some of the camps are rapidly approaching in May and June, gone ahead and canceled all of our 4-H camps and the OSU affiliated camps through the end of August. And that was a really tough decision, but once again, it really goes toward making sure that we're not going to have anything that we feel regrets for later by not keeping our youth and their leaders of the future safe. So we actually have an awful lot of things going on as it relates to interesting virtual camps that are being designed by some of our 4-H educators. We have virtual training that's been going on for our camp counselors and some of that leadership piece that's still in place. And so it'll be fun if, you should have us back in like a month or so and we can show you what some of that looks like.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that like all of us, it's just a different way of doing, accomplishing some of the same ends, and certainly calls for innovation. And I think that's what you're talking about here with the delivery of our program. So moving into ag and natural resources.
So talking about creativity and innovation, this group came out of the starting gates like really quickly. We'd already done some ag crisis response work for last year's Prevent Plant, and we're continuing that continuity of that task force this year related to some of the weather issues that we're already seeing. We also have a focus on direct marketing help for produce growers, and I know we've been collaborating, Tom, with your group at Piketon related to that. We have food supply chain challenges and needs where we're meeting and discussing what some of that involves, up to and including things, for instance, like, recently with dairy. We've got a lot of financial assistance related to planting and the growing season going on. And then in particular, we started an ag and natural resource ag madness. So the whole, it was a creative way of saying, you're not going to be able to do your March Madness with the basketball this year. And so let's do something fun with education. And so they started a tournament of education, and you've got the link here on the site. But they basically came up with brackets that were related to different topics and themes for our agricultural community. And we have live webinars 3 times a day. And then the replays are available ongoing. So they really came out of the gate fast. They've already reached easily 5,000 plus individuals through this virtual engagement through the Ag Madness. And then we also have professional development going on, obviously, for a lot of in-service and webinars for our own people to continue to build that knowledge across the state. And then we have a very active Master Gardener volunteer group statewide, and they're hosting Lunch and Learn series with upwards of 1,500 people, maybe an average of 8 to 1,500 people at each of the seminars and webinars that they're offering.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that's certainly been an active group, and I'm very pleased that our direct marketing specialist down at OSU South Center has been involved with a very large group of extension and other folks, to try to address the challenges with fresh produce, U-pick operations, farmers markets. All this has a big impact on their ability. And then the specialist in the crop area, especially the berries and our hemp and hops, been represented in that tournament of education, the Ag Madness. So we're pleased that they're actively engaged with overall extension, delivering some of those programs. I think, Jackie, another big program area that has responded is family and consumer science. And you might want to talk about their activity a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Family and consumer sciences jumped right on board with this as well. Family and consumer sciences really does cover 3 primary areas, which is 3 healthies, we call it: healthy finances, healthy relationships, and healthy people. And so some of the things that they've put into place already is a Live Healthy, Live Well email challenge. And so they do 6 weeks of 2 messages per week. And this time around, it's really focused on time management. It's all about time and mindfulness. And we all know working at home and doing telework and being socially distanced at this point, this has an awful lot of ability to help people engage in those moments. We also have a wide variety of resource sheets, up to including fact sheets posted online around health and wellness, food safety, stress relief right now, and then especially around early childhood education, as we do a lot of situations where parents are becoming homeschoolers without any advanced preparation for that and the stress that goes along with it. And then also looking at some financial information, as we know that this COVID-19 is causing a lot of economic turmoil for a variety of families. And we're also doing online training for trauma-informed care classes. And so there's a lot of mental health and wellness that goes into dealing with a global pandemic and what does that mean for us. And so again, along the lines of people losing out on seeing loved ones, having that social distancing and some isolation, and then even thinking about, the class of 2020 who may have to have postponed their graduation and lost out on a lot of the different things that they were anticipating this year. So we're training people to really pay attention to some of those signs related to trauma, and then also figure out how to help with resilience through this time. And then finally, they have an ask an expert for financial assistance. So people can submit their questions online, any variety of topics, and then our folks will get back to them within 24 to 48 hours with some personalized information.
Great, great. Well, this certainly has induced a lot of stress into everyone's life, no matter where or what it is that your walk normally involves. And some of these issues tend to creep in unawares, that just the fact that such a huge amount of change and the relationships at home and, trying to work from home in many, many cases, or if the unfortunately, your job couldn't be done at home and you're laid off, then creates a lot of financial uncertainty and just piles on. And so these areas that family and consumer science is working in, certainly in high demand and well placed to some of the issues that our population is facing here in Ohio and obviously elsewhere. And certainly glad to hear about some of these activities in terms of the stress relief and childhood. All of these things are certainly paramount on a day-to-day basis. So I think we've got a program called Community Development, and maybe you want to talk a little bit about that one, Jackie.
Absolutely. So then our fourth area is community development. Oftentimes we'll call it community vitality and economic development, kind of all roll into that. But they are keeping very busy, working, for instance, in combination with our township associations right now and some of the local decision making and leadership development going on there, especially with discussions related to how do communities face and plan for and be proactive in times of economic impact related to COVID. And so they're actually helping individual counties think about that and providing resources, especially for suffering businesses right now. So how do we, again, Extension is always about trying to do prevention or early intervention before something reaches a crisis point. And so our community development professionals have been very engaged in entering into conversations early with county commissioners and township associations and local businesses. They're also doing a variety of webinars around revolving loan funds for public entities that are going to help with development and expansion of some small businesses. With all the different relief packages that are coming down from the federal government through the states, they're trying to help engage individuals in understanding what those are, what's available, and how to go about accessing those. And finally, they're also doing professional development videos to help our educators across the state with some online teaching methods and leadership development for some of their clientele as well.
Very good, very good. Well, this is an area in terms of community development, business development, that our group has been very active in these programs that have come down from mainly administered through the Small Business Administration at the federal level, and then the Ohio Development Service Agency at the state level. And of course, a lot of these are being really created kind of in the moment, and they've certainly had their opportunities to go county by county with some webinar type work through this medium of distance and try to answer questions. And, I've encountered some of the frustration and some of that stress that we just talked about that businesses face. If you're a small business owner and, your customer base is drying up and, not coming through the door because of all the social distancing and, in a lot of cases, you just can't be in operation. And so it's a very challenging time for them. And our group has been active in trying to get the latest information. And of course, it's frustrating, and people express their frustration when it changes. And like a lot of things, that we've experienced from the university, it starts out one day one way and it changes a little bit on the second day.
Right, and even the same day.
Yeah. And so we're just pushing our way along and doing the very best we can. I think you had a comment, and I think we're down, Jackie, with about 5 minutes or so left. And so we want to be mindful of that, but I think you had another slide that you
I
wanted to
actually have
cover.
two more quick slides if I could. One is we had begun the development of a learning and organizational development unit. And recently they've been incredibly helpful in identifying additional resources for professional development of our own employees. So we do an internal series and webinar trainings each week to help our extension employees become better at the virtual trainings and a variety of those tools that are going to help them with a focus on technology to communicate effectively and well with our clientele. And then we're also translating a lot of that to the clientele. So we have kind of a train the trainer approach to some of that as well. We've been doing a lot of focus on telework. Again, all these different programs that we just mentioned are things that we're trying to push out to others. And as we do that, our LOD unit is trying to work with our professionals to make sure they're capable of doing that. And then we're also working with some partners, and up to and including recently helping our County Commissioners Association of Ohio focus on bringing as a collaboration the ability to facilitate some Zoom conferences and some Zoom meetings, just like we're doing today, where public meetings can happen with our county commissioners who also are facing some of the issues related to that public distancing. So we have a wide variety of resources, and you can look at our facebook.com, and the link is right here in front of you, to actually go and access some of the trainings that are open to the public. And then one final thing that I wanted to mention, if I could, is we are really focused, obviously, on getting information, accurate information out about COVID. There's a lot of information out there. Sometimes it's hard to know if it's relevant, if it's science-based, but we've developed in combination with our researchers in CFAS, our College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences, and our extension partners to develop this knowledge exchange, which is really an opportunity to take that research and knowledge that's at our university, translate it and push it out in ways that make sense to our public audiences. So it's fact-based, science-backed information. And in particular, we wanted to highlight our new COVID-19 hub, which is available, as you can see here, at kx.osu.edu/COVID-19. And that has a lot of information across all the different topics that we mentioned today, but it also primarily has a really good spot to identify accurate information from CDC and others about what is fact-based for COVID and how to prevent that in your own families, how to deal with some of the situations that are going on relative to it, and to stay well. And again, our focus has been on staying home and staying safe in Ohio, and we've been working hard to have Extension as a partner in that.
Right, right. Well, I think this knowledge exchange, as you mentioned, was a work in progress, but certainly fills a need at this point. And as you've tried to, but I'll back you up on fact-based, research-based information. And you can hear a lot of things, and a lot of people ask you questions about, well, I heard this, or I saw this, or that, or the other. But this is meant to have the research behind it and be reliable and a source that you can go to from our college and beyond. You mentioned the CDC and the Ohio Department of Health, those organizations that are on the front lines trying to accumulate all that information in one place. So certainly a timely, and it's brought about in a very, very timely fashion. So I think we're down to just a couple minutes, Jackie, but I want to just take a moment and share that Extension is an organization that is always out there. And I think that a lot of our work has had to change because we can't be out among people at meetings and being at the table in person, so to speak. And we're all having to adapt to that. And I guess as we look to the future, I think this little bit of trial by fire, like any organization, we had people that embraced this early on, you know, before this ever came up. We're really happy to do these kinds of things. But there are others that, you know, only kind of a little bit of dragging and kicking, you know, and this crisis has created that kind of an environment. And I think that we can look to the future that's going to involve more of this kind of thing. And we're experiencing that in the co-ops world right now. We're trying to put some training together later in the summer, but we've determined that why not do it virtually and avoid the risk of setting up an in-person meeting and then having to change at the last minute. So that's just another example. Adaptation, and of course, all the courses that are being taught have to be virtual at this point. So it's been an adjustment, but it's one that I think will have lasting impact. And I think my thought is that life is never going to be just quite the same as it was before all of this came about.
You're absolutely right, Tom. And I think the benefit of what we're learning here is the ability that we have to have that hybrid approach with our traditional face-to-face, but also advancing our ability to meet some of those needs virtually. I just wanted to say, if anybody wants to learn more about Extension, you can simply go to extension.osu.edu for all of the front doors to the areas that we talked about today, our program areas. And then if you're within a county, all you have to do is put your county name. So let's say, for instance, medina.osu.edu, and you'll get to your local OSU Extension county office, and you can see what types of resources they have available at this point in time and ongoing.
Perfect, perfect. Jackie, this is going very, very quickly. I'm sorry that we're out of time, but I thank you for your willingness to join us this morning. Keep up the good work from where you're working from, and keep getting the good word out about OSU Extension, and good things are happening, we know. So at this point, thank you once again for your time and the knowledge that you brought with us here today and shared with our audience. Thank you so much.